All right. Bruce, hi.
Hi, Evette.
Thank you for joining me for this demonstration.
My pleasure.
And I'm excited. So this is, we're making sure we're capturing the sound. So today's demonstration is going to be about pain. And in your case, it seems to be a chronic pain that's like, it comes and goes over the past 30 years from what we discussed.
Yes.
So tell me, let's start with, when did this start?
When did it start? Probably about 1986, when I was involved in a car accident in Fiji. The car...
Trouble in Paradise.
Trouble in Paradise, it was. We were driving up a winding mountain road going to the jungle, and the car suddenly left the road, and there was nothing on the other side of the road except a drop of 100 foot to the valley below. And when I saw the drop, I passed out. I just surrendered immediately because I thought, well, that was it. I couldn't think how, or I think I thought how I could survive that drop.
Right.
And then after a while, I woke up and I realised I could move, and I was wriggling around a bit, and I was lying on this ledge on the side of this cliff face, and it was about the size of a bathtub. It was the only flat space on the entire area, and it was probably about 3/4 of the way down. And then a little bit further down, I could see the car and the other two people who were badly injured. And we got out of that. I got back up to the top of the road and some help arrived. And the other two people were admitted to hospital. I went, but I left. But then in the days after that, I started to get this pain coming down this arm and into the back of the shoulder.
So did it start in the back and then to the arm, or did it start in the arm and then to the back?
I think that started in the arm and went down, or in the shoulder,
The shoulder,
and then went back. It went down into the arm, and I also had another pain at the time that was in the back, but not in the same location. But the actual pain was behind this knee, and for 2 years I couldn't stand properly on that leg, and all the chiropractors were treating here until I eventually found a chiropractor, and he said, no, it's not there. And he just felt around, he said, no, it's here. And he worked on me, and he fixed me, and all this pain disappeared.
Right.
And then he also worked on this injury as well, and that disappeared.
But then it came back.
It's come back probably in the last 6 months, could be a little bit longer. It's come back.
Got it. So when we look at the pain, so you're pointing to your right side. Is it next to your shoulder blade, above it, or below it, where the pain started?
It's about there.
Got it. Okay. So it's where the muscle. Nice. Got it. Okay. Got it. So, question. Let's look at the time 30 years ago first.
Yes.
I want you to kind of let's go down memory lane.
Yes.
And just is there any perhaps short-term significant stress that you can remember before the accident took place? I understand that you were in Fiji, you're probably in a really great space and mood, it's a holiday, it's a beautiful tropical environment, but let's put that aside. Right? Let's put that aside. And let's just kind of have a conversation about that time. It could be even maybe a year before you went to Fiji, before the car accident, or maybe a little bit earlier or a little bit later. But what I'm looking for is, was there perhaps any kind of significant emotional stress that you can remember from that time? Or was there a lot of stress, perhaps building up, that kind of caused your life to feel a little bit more uncomfortable than usual? emotionally or even physically?
What I can remember is moving location probably about 6 months prior to that.
Okay.
And then,
Question, I just want to
Yes.
ask, was there just a normal move, or was there a reason why, like, what was the reason for
no, it was just a normal move. Because I was living in a house at the time looking after someone's house, but the house was so cold I had to get out, it was too
Okay.
cold. And I then moved down to the beach area and lived there.
Nice.
So, yeah, maybe there was some stress in that house because it was so cold.
Okay.
Living there. And then there was the plan to go to Fiji to visit a friend of mine who was living up there.
And were you with a partner at the time when you went to Fiji? Did you have someone in your life?
No, I did not.
Mhm.
And the planning was there to be going to Fiji, and then I was getting calls from a friend of mine that lived in Paris saying, oh, you know, you should come over here. Why don't you come here? It'd be really great if you came here. I really would like you to come and have a holiday here. And then it was getting closer to the time to go to Fiji, and I couldn't work out whether I was going to Paris or to Fiji. And
What a
then,
dilemma to have. Life is hard.
So I spoke to my friend who was living in Fiji at the time, said, oh, look, I was thinking now of not coming. And she said, oh, no, I really need to see you. I'd really like you to come up here. And we were going on this really lovely holiday because her partner was a Fijian guy who had connections with people that lived out on an outer island group, and we were actually going out to this very remote part of Fiji to spend 6 weeks out there
Okay.
in this beautiful paradise. So there was this push and pull, was it Fiji, was it Paris? And that was going on really up until the days that I was leaving. I wasn't even sure in that last week where I was going. But then ultimately I decided, well, I would go to Fiji, and so that's where I went.
Okay. There we go. Who was with you in the car?
Who was with me in the car was my friend Elga, who was here who had originally lived in Sydney, who I knew, and then she moved and made her life out in the Pacific, and her partner at the time.
Did any of them have any pain that you knew of? Any physical pain? Just curious.
No, I don't know the answer to that actually.
That's okay.
It's
It's
but
just
they
sometimes we
certainly,
have friends and like now my back hurts and
yeah, it's no,
got it.
it's but of the three of us in the car, I was the least injured.
Got it.
They were seriously injured. Yeah.
Well, more likely so because you passed out. There was no physical resistance to the impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was a hatchback car, and as the car was spinning around, the hatch must have opened, and I got flung out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So, question that I have for you before we kind of get a little bit more into the pain in the body, and I'm asking because I'm listening where's the pain, I'm listening where the location is, and knowing some psychosomatics behind that, I'm just gonna be playful. I'm just gonna ask, just based on that. During this time before the accident, when you said that you moved house, you lived in that cold place, and then you moved to this area that was closer to the beach. I'm curious. I understand that it was cold, and I know that when I'm in cold weather, I feel miserable. I feel incredibly miserable. Like it just takes the joy out of my life. So I'm just curious, what was your emotional state during that time? Are you someone that can kind of, you're okay with cold? Like it's tolerable for you?
Oh no, it was unbearable.
Did it bring up emotions for you? Like maybe, because for me, I've seen in people that it can bring up unresolved emotional stress.
It would probably, when I think about that, it was some form of resentment there, because I'd gone there to look after this house, and when I went there, the people said, oh look, here's the heater and it goes from 1 to 5, but we only ever have it on number 1 and we never put the fan on because it just doesn't get cold enough. Well, they moved out and I was there looking after this house. I had it on 5 with the fan and with a coat on, and it was still cold in that house. It was just a cold house.
So you felt present. Got it.
Yes, because I thought, what am I doing here? I'm here in this place and it's just so cold. And it's almost so cold you almost go into shutdown, you can't be bothered doing anything.
Yep. There we go. So another question that I have for you is, when you were in that home, I'm just curious, like, what was your dynamic like with your dad? Did you feel that as you were kind of, and the reason why I'm asking this, do you feel that this moment where you were living in that cold house could have brought up unresolved issues between you and dad, where you didn't feel supported by him as you transitioned through your life when you were younger?
It's I always felt very supported by him, but then I left home at a young age, and then left the area that I was living because my parents lived in Perth at that time, and then I moved over to Sydney.
Got it.
So I was here on the other side of the country, but doing my own thing, but still keeping in very regular contact with my parents.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So I want to tap a little bit more into that resentment then.
It's because I'd allowed these people to say to me, oh, you know, we've got this house and we want to go away for a while and we really want someone just to be there looking after it and house sitting it. So I moved from an area that was really quite nice, although there was starting to be some development and various things around there, and so I thought, oh, maybe it's time to move. So I moved into this place, and then I got there, and yes, I did move just at the commencement of winter, and then just couldn't believe how cold this place was.
And were you able to support yourself during that time really well?
Oh yes, I was able to support myself. I was working, and so all of that was functioning. Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. So what I would like to do is we're going to talk a little bit to the body now as well.
Yes.
Right? So let's also see what messages is also being held in this place of pain. Okay, so now I have the emotional stress now. Prior to the accident, we kind of, the accident also happened during a time. Who was driving, by the way? You were not driving, right?
No, I wasn't driving. Okay. Elga was driving.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So let's take a nice deep breath.
Yeah.
Reset the frontal cortex. And I would like to, I acknowledge that the shoulder is hurting as well, but let's jump into the back area.
Yes.
Where it started. And let's kind of give that area a voice. Okay? Let's give that area a voice. Because what's also happening is that when he lived in that house and it was so cold, there was a complete boundary failure as well. He resented it, but he didn't say anything about it. He didn't take action to correct the situation. Right? Because expressing a boundary, that's also, in most cases, we step into our masculinity in order to express a boundary, to express our needs. And it's also relating to communication. Now, what also happened there was that he fell. He didn't correct the situation, so he just stayed in an uncomfortable situation. And then the resentment built. So the resentment is a symptom that he felt, because that was the strongest emotion that he could remember from that time. Right? Okay? So, got it. Yeah, let's do that. Let's have a chat.
Absolutely.
With that part in the back.
Yes.
Let's do that. So you're going to connect, I'm going to connect, and we share notes. So even if him and I get completely different answers, we're still going to go with that. Right? Perfect. Let's do that. So Brizza, I would like you to, we're going to be playful. We're just going to connect to that part in the back. Just be with it. And we're just going to give it a voice. Just give it the freedom to speak or express a message. And also while we are there, let's kind of just get a feel for, do we feel this pain? Acknowledge it's inside, but is there perhaps any aspect of, you know, the presence outside? So I'm just doing this with you.
I feel it's very much inside,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like this superficial level of it externally.
Mm-hmm.
It just like right on the surface. It's there. And the words that come from there
Mm-hmm.
are let me go,
Got it.
let me be free,
Got it.
release me.
Okay. I want to share what I got there is I felt a feeling and a message coming through. I'm being pushed and pushed and pushed, but I don't know how to stand up for myself. And it's almost like, you know, staying in that place of feeling powerless until you got so fed up and angry enough, which is an end result of the resentment. And needing that resentment in order to be able to establish the boundary of realizing I'm done, I need to get out, I've had enough. But it took you a while to build up that resentment and for it to become uncomfortable enough to tap into that anger, to tap into that, the masculinity in you, to express that boundary and to step out and actually take action. So my question to you is, we're just going to role play here. So we're going to combine both these answers. We're going to tackle both of them because it's important. I just want to ask, what do you feel held you back from correcting the situation of living in those circumstances that you were so incredibly unhappy with?
It's after I'd been there a short while, I started looking around for another apartment, and I probably looked around somewhere for about 6 weeks, and then I found something, and I moved very quickly. So I was there for about 3 months in that, but I knew in the first few weeks that it wasn't right. But prior to leaving, I had to find somewhere else to go.
So you felt stuck?
Oh yes, I was.
Got it.
Mm.
Okay.
And for the first few weeks, I was just driving around searching,
Right.
and looking, I ended up finding this place to live.
Got it. Whereas this is perfect. So I would like it, let's also keep tapping into that. That part of you that said, let me go. I want to be free.
It was something that was or now I feel it there, that was pulling me out of where I was to be free to go and really join and align my own path.
Nice. Got it.
Because with this apartment that I ended up living in, I'd first come to Sydney many years before that, and I'd been on a tour for the day, and as the driver was talking about this area that we were driving through, I looked out the window and I saw this image of this building being constructed, and I thought, oh, that looks like a fort, it looks like a castle. And that ended up being the building that I went back to many years later to live in, although I didn't know it at the time. But I saw the image, and I can still see it in my mind now, this building being constructed that I went and lived in many, many years later. And the name of the building was called the Chateau. And I'd seen it like this fortress or a castle many, many years before. But then, once I'd moved into that area and that apartment, many things changed in my life.
Right.
So it was like wherever I was in the other house was saying, no, that's wrong, you've got to be somewhere else.
Right.
And so I went there.
Excellent.
So that's
But you
Bit
also
more of a story.
but also needing the discomfort and the pain to kind of like push you into
To
that
push
change.
me into it, yes.
Got it.
Yes.
So let's work on the discomfort that you felt. Right? So you said that you felt trapped. The voice and the muscles, they also said, let me go.
Let me go, yes. It just wasn't right. And from where I was working to where I'd be travelling back to this house where I was living at the time, I could feel it every day when I was on the road. It just wasn't right. It was like I was heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And where I ultimately lived was in the opposite direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I could, something was saying that it wasn't right, but I didn't know. I didn't understand enough about myself at the time.
Got it. Yeah. Last question. How did you feel about not having that solid foundation, like a home that's yours, because you lived in someone else's apartment? Meaning like your space, your foundation.
Yeah, I didn't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't right.
Yeah, but even going to Fiji, like, did you have a home to go back to when you were going there?
Oh yes, when I went to Fiji, I'd already had moved and I'd settled into the new
Oh,
apartment.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was yours. You were not living in someone else's.
No,
Got it.
that was
home.
yeah, that was home.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Nice. Good job. So we have the resentment. We have feeling trapped and stuck. Is there anything else that emotionally stands out for you? And you just kind of like tap back into that time frame.
When I tap back into that, it's as though part of me was separated from myself. I wasn't totally unified to be able to receive or be who I really am.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, I didn't like it. And it's almost, in that time I had a lot of people say, oh, come do this, come do that. But I didn't really want it to. It was like, I just wanted to be.
Just figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, just allow me to be.
So did you feel very dictated to, very controlled in that sense, where people were trying to help, but you felt controlled by it, and as a result trapped?
Yes. It's because I do know what I like to do, but then other people may consider that they know what I like to do.
Right.
I know what I like to do.
There we go.
Yeah.
Nice. Got it. Just a question. I'm just feeling a little bit more into that. Is the resist, because there's a reason why you didn't speak up. There's a reason why you didn't communicate. Listen, this is not what I need. This is what. Did you communicate that, or where's the gap? Yeah, this.
Oh, to get out of that house.
No, with what you were saying prior as well, of people like telling you what they think you like or what you should do. And
well, I would then be feeling that if I'm not doing that, what they would like, I'd be offending them or hurting them or
now we get it.
yeah, or if I suddenly would say no, I'm not doing that, people would become upset quite easily. Oh, well, what's wrong with you? Well, why don't you? And then, well, I don't want it.
Yeah.
So it's always aware of how the other person would feel.
And do you feel that the reason why that fear is there, because I'm just curious, normally the specific spot where he feels the pain, we know the pain is an end result of suppressed anger, and anger is a symptom and final expression of feeling powerless, out of control, resentment, or feelings of injustice. Now my question is, that specific part in the back has countless times shown to show up that there's unresolved embarrassment or shame or feeling humiliated by people because they didn't show up in a way or do things in ways that people wanted them to do, and then shame being used as a way of correcting their behavior to get them to do what they want them to do, meaning him being at the receiving end of that. So I'm just curious, was there perhaps moments like that prior, like let's take this even 5, 6, 10 years prior to you moving into that cold house. Was there perhaps patterns like that? Because there's a reason why there's a weakness of not expressing
Yes.
yourself.
Look, certainly that could have been in the workplace that I was
Yeah.
working in at the time, because it's not like how we're living in the world today where people are treated. You could be in the workplace and something may not go as it should have, and you could be put down in front of
Exactly,
other
that's
people.
what I mean.
Yes,
That's what I feel. I
that.
really feel
Yes,
that
yes.
shame, like
Yes.
to
And
make you feel ungrounded.
yes, and it's almost as though you can't function because if you don't do this, it's this huge outcry, and a lot of verbal communication which is not very well directed, but in front of other people.
Yeah.
So you're not feeling very comfortable with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So because I really felt a sense of a very deep lack of support. And also masculine right side, so it could be feeling lack of support from his environment, feeling lack of support by just the world in itself, and then the accident also triggering that, feeling like everything and everyone is against me in the world. Now this is happening to me, the car accident after that as well. So I was just curious, because I was just looking for a theme. I felt that there was a strong theme. We really need to get down to the core of that.
Yes. And within that, if there was a situation where I would say something, it could be then perceived that I've become too angry about it. So it'd be just projected back, oh, you're angry, why are you so angry?
There you go,
No, well, it's not just about me, you're here too.
Right.
Yeah,
it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Got it. So how did it make you feel when you were put down in
Oh,
circumstances there?
well, particularly if it was a case where I knew what I'd done was the right thing,
Yeah.
but it was a manipulation because someone else just couldn't admit that perhaps what they did wasn't quite right, and they just try and push it on you, and then they use a position of authority or intimidation to,
Put you back down.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable and angry.
And what else?
It's resentful,
And?
and just feeling disrespected.
Got it.
Lack of respect.
What else?
Almost like no platform. It's like you're standing on quicksand. There was nothing
Unsupported.
unsupported, no stability. Yeah.
Beautiful. So, Bruce, when you feel all these feelings, the resentment, feeling unsupported, feeling stuck, feeling trapped, and feeling disrespected, in those moments, or even when you just bring all those feelings together into a box, what did you emotionally need at that time? And take your time. I don't want you to think about it. I really want you to connect to that part in you that needed something. A positive thing. What did you
Well, I would say that I would have liked to have had truth and support, like true support, not just a feigned support,
Genuine support.
genuine support.
Question.
Yes.
Do you feel that your parents gave you genuine support? I know that they supported you. However, remember how we talked about sometimes people can support us and they shower us with support, but it's not the kind of support that you need. So it actually can cause you to feel unsupported. Or parents can support you in ways through material, but the emotional support is absent, so the support feels artificial. So I'm just curious.
I'd say that was very strong there.
Which
the,
one?
The emotional support,
Okay.
the loving support, all of that was there,
Mhm.
and the freedom and allowing, all of that was there. It was really then when I transitioned and left home at quite young to just go and start
What
working.
the world was like hit you hard.
Yeah, it was suddenly very different.
Got it. There we go.
Mm.
Now we're getting there. Nice. This is good. This is good.
Mm.
So, what you needed was support. Is that a good?
Yes,
That
yes.
resonates.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll put that there.
Yeah.
So Bruce, also when, let me just add that, you're doing great. So when we feel into these feelings of, the resentment, feeling trapped, feeling stuck, the disrespect and the lack of support, when you become aware of these feelings, where in your body do you feel it? Like, where's the home for it?
I'd say my throat.
Anywhere else? Take it.
And it's in the lower abdomen, like right at the bottom of the abdomen, but on the left side.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
And that's almost like, it's almost around where that psoas muscle is.
Got it. Perfect. And then when we connect, anywhere else that you feel it as well? Like perhaps outside or just inside? Be playful.
If it's outside, it is outside, and it's on the right-hand side and it's on the back of the neck.
Let's have fun. Let's connect to that. Let's pretend like let's give it a face or a voice that you know or recognize.
It has a sharpness to it, and like a prickliness to it, and the voice is watch out.
Does it feel a warning towards you, or more someone that was a little bit fear-based? Like very aware of the environment, feeling maybe unsafe, unsettled?
It comes to me as a collective of the insecure people that I may have been around in the workplace that are projecting their toxicity towards me. It's like all there in a bundle together.
Got it.
That's
Perfect. One last question. So when you become aware of these emotions, right, the resentment, the disrespect, feeling stuck, feeling unsupported, how did your physical body react to that?
it's I can feel the anger that can build up within it. And then I just have to breathe myself through that. It suddenly feels suppressed or weakened.
When you feel that suppressed and weakened feeling, do you feel like hunching over, like curling, or do you feel like freezing, or how would you describe it? So
It's more hunching. Yeah.
So we have the fight and hide instincts. Very good. Perfect. Got it. Excellent. Well, this is a very good start.
Great.
You ready to do the healing work?
Yes, indeed.
Perfect. So now we're going to do the pain healing. And take nice water. Get ready for the trip.
Thank you.
Get ready for the road. So Bruce, take a nice deep breath. Just relax. And I'd like you to feel, see, sense, or hear yourself just being in your own space. You can imagine you're like a caterpillar in a cocoon. That cocoon can be any color of your choice. And I would like you just to have awareness. Just have an awareness of this resentment, feeling trapped, feeling unsupported, feeling disrespected, feeling like hiding, fighting at the same time. And having an awareness of these insecurities outside of you that you have a sense of. Just having an awareness of that. And I invite you to be okay with feeling that. Be okay with that. And I'm just going to go quiet for 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to connect with you. We're going to start the process. And then when we're done, I'll ask you to gently come back. Okay? How are you? Nice jersey. Green and blue.
I like green and blue.
Oh, your favorite colors?
They are.
Really? Nice. I actually heard that they said that green has an effect on the mitochondria. Like there's a positive reaction that it has.
I've never heard that. I like that.
Yeah, the master cell.
Yes.
It lights up. It feels really happy. It has a positive effect on it. It's almost like it re-energizes it. Yeah, it expands. Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. Nice. And my mitochondria are happy that you're sitting next to me with the green top.
You can have some.
I know. All right, so we break state there. Excellent. So I'm just curious. Let's just talk a little bit about what was your experience. What was it like? What did you hear, feel, see, or sense? Sometimes people don't sense a lot, and that's okay. We all process in different ways. Just curious, maybe if you did, I would love to know.
I could hear the resonance of your voice and the words coming out there, and understanding the meaning of a lot of those words very clearly when they're put into the difference between this and this, and really seeing them as different things, and really understanding that and hearing that.
Detangling how it was stored in the body, yeah?
And
Nice,
yes,
yeah.
and that leads me into an unwinding that I felt
Oh, nice.
within the body. I could feel something unwinding in the lower part of my body and into my legs, and an unwinding in the shoulder and down into the arm, like an unravelling. It's like when string or something's all knotted up and tied up, and you've got to pull it apart and straighten it out. It was like that.
The twisted towel is becoming untwisted.
Untwisted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was that feeling, and I could feel a lot of light in my body, particularly in my hands. With that, and just feel generally much lighter all through my body, and in the areas, where I was aware of some discomfort that I described. When we commenced, I don't have any of that feeling at all.
Okay. Yeah.
At all.
Nice.
Thank you.
I'm not done. I like how clients just wrap up the session for you.
Yeah.
No, that was just an intro. Thank you.
So my question to you, Bruce, is how do you feel when you think back to that old problem?
I don't even know what it is. I can't connect to it.
Very good. How does your back feel?
My back. My back feels very light. It's just light and loose and unrestricted, I'd
Nice.
say.
Is there pain?
No, there's no pain.
Oh, nice. And the arm? Because remember you said it was at the back and it would come down to the arm?
Yeah, no, there is no pain in the arm.
Really? Are you sure?
It's the truth.
Very good.
Yeah, positive. There's
Excellent.
nothing.
And that's how we do it. Good job.
Thank you, Evette. Thank you.
You're